Fragrances that TikTok made me buy. Are these super hyped up colognes on TikTok actually deserving of all the hype? Well, I bought all of them, so you don't have to. Up first, we are talking about Mercedes-Benz Club Black. This got so hyped up on TikTok towards the end of last year. It was so weird. It wasn't hyped up by any particular creators. It just kind of blew up, and that's honestly how it goes with these fragrances, especially when they are cheap like this one. This thing in Australia only ran me about 50 bucks. However, now it is so hard to find, probably due to all the TikTok hype. I can confidently say, however, that this is one of the fragrances that deserves all of the hype and more. For 50 bucks, there is not much better out there. It is just a beautiful blend of amber and vanilla. It is a perfect subtle date night special occasions fragrance in the winter time. It shares a lot of similarities to a more expensive fragrance that you have definitely heard of called Parfums Mali Altair. Altair smells better blended. You can tell it smells more expensive. You can tell it is more expensive and the performance is better. But for the price, you can't go wrong with Mercedes-Benz Club Black if you can find it. New fragrance releases from big designer brands are always going to get hyped on everything, but especially TikTok, and there's no exception than Valentino's Born in Roma Green Extravaganza. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little late to the party. I only picked this thing up last week. Let me say, it actually surprised me a lot. The reviews weren't looking great. Fragrantica, just a general consensus on TikTok, most people weren't loving this thing, but again, it really surprised me. Green fragrances aren't going to be loved by a lot of people. They aren't as mass appealing as, say, your standard blue fresh and clean fragrance, but this stuff is really, really nice. You have a very subtle coffee note, which I get kind of a little bit more in the dry down, but it's just very bright. I get melon, I get apple. It's fruity, but it also has a fresh and clean element to it still. I honestly think it is super solid. It got hyped for about a couple weeks on TikTok, but the hype died so quickly when people realized that this is a green fragrance. People on TikTok hate green fragrances. That is what I've come to realize. My favorite thing about this fragrance isn't actually the smell. The smell's okay, but the bottle is probably the coolest thing I've ever seen. Yes, that is kind of shallow, but there's nothing better than a cool bottle. Performance is the one letdown of this fragrance. I get barely 6 hours longevity with pretty soft sillage. The opening for me is definitely the highlight of this fragrance. It's fresh, it's uplifting. I can really smell the kind of melon apple blend. I can assume it's probably a great spring and summertime signature scent. There is definitely better out there. I think it didn't deserve any hype on TikTok, if I'm being honest, but Valentino is a very popular and well-known fragrance brand. So, it doesn't really come as a surprise. It's okay, nothing special. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. For what it's worth, if there are any women watching this video, I actually believe that the women's release, Born in Roma Green Extravaganza Donna, is far superior to the men's one. I've got it right here. It's just a beautiful blend of jasmine and vanilla. I honestly much prefer it. Honestly, if I had to choose between wearing one of these two for life, I might just pick the women's one. Speaking of new fragrance releases getting hyped up on TikTok, Initio's Narcotic Delight. Again, I was a bit late to the party. I picked this one up in the USA because it was super hard to get for a good price in Australia. Again, like Green Extravaganza, I think this was a little bit overhated. I actually prefer the smell of this to Side Effect. Yes, I know that is going to be in the very unpopular camp. Cherry, it smells like burnt cherry, but it's super sweet. You get the vanilla, a little bit of booziness, but not as much as Side Effect. The reason I like this so much is because cherry is one of my favorite smells, and the cherry in this is very pronounced. It is very syrupy. It's awesome, and the performance is much better than the recent batches of Side Effect. In fact, about 4 months ago now, I bought a bottle of Side Effect knowing I love the smell, but I actually ended up selling it about a week later because it performed that badly on my skin. I do not have that same problem with Narcotic Delight. Narcotic Delight was released earlier this year, I believe, and the hype only lasted maybe 2 to 3 weeks, and I can honestly see why. It isn't anything revolutionary, it is not mind-blowing, and it does share a lot of similarities to Side Effect, which is a fragrance that a lot of fragrance junkies have already smelled. So again, it is kind of expected, but I do think that this is a solid release by Initio, and I wouldn't just assume that Side Effect is the better fragrance. If you're deciding on an Initio fragrance, I still do think Narcotic Delight is worth smelling. There's a reason I have it in my collection. I do personally believe it is very solid. I would give this one an 8.2 out of 10. And I believe that it deserved at least some TikTok hype. I can't make a video about fragrances getting hyped up on TikTok without at least mentioning Jean-Paul Gaultier, particularly this one right here, Paradise Gardens. I know if you guys have been watching my videos, I talk about this stuff pretty often because a lot of people want to know about it. And again, it is probably the biggest and most popular fragrance brand in the entire world right now. Paradise Gardens, honestly, the hype slowly started to die down, but it came out months ago now. And the fact that the hype sustained this long tells you all you need to know. I do believe that this is an extremely solid release by Jean-Paul Gaultier. I expected a fragrance that would be basically a worse version of Le Beau Le Parfum, but better than Le Beau EDT. However, now that I've been using this for about a couple months now, I actually prefer this over both the original Le Beau and Le Beau Parfum. But two fragrances that I really enjoy, especially Le Beau Parfum. The minty green freshness of Le Beau Paradise Gardens is so nice, it's so uplifting. It is definitely a trend for designer brands right now to come out with more green fragrances. That's what I've noticed. I believe the new Valentino, like we talked about, green fragrance, Paradise Gardens, green fragrance, and I think there's a new CK as well that's a green fragrance. So that's an interesting trend. I'm really liking it. I am a big fan of green fragrances. This stuff definitely deserves the hype. Performance is solid. When I first got it, I didn't think the performance was very good. Turns out I was actually going nose blind because I've done some testing. I do get around 8 hours longevity with moderate sillage. For a green, fresh, uplifting fragrance, that is pretty good. If you have tried Le Beau Le Parfum and you really enjoy it, definitely try Paradise Gardens. I wouldn't say it's redundant to own both of them. This tones down the coconut a lot and increases the freshness. I feel like this is better for the spring and summer, whereas Le Beau Le Parfum is a more versatile all year round scent. My final rating for Le Beau Paradise Gardens is an 8.6 out of 10. This is good stuff. Since I started creating TikTok videos probably about a year and a half ago now, I've never seen a niche fragrance as hyped up as Xerjoff Erba Pura is right now. There's just videos about this thing every single day for around the past 6 months. It has got to be the best-selling Xerjoff by now. I reckon it's overtaken Naxos by far, at least in the past 6 months of sales. Why? I'm honestly not too sure. It's good, it's just very synthetic, it's very cloying. I bought this solely because of the hype. It was actually a blind buy. I think it's good. I'm just not sure how it got this hype, to be honest. One reason I could see it being very hyped up is because the performance is absolutely out of this world nuclear, and who doesn't love a strong fragrance? All you need is 2 to 3 sprays. Any more than that, you'll probably suffocate someone. On clothes, this thing does not come off. I mean, I've had to throw out a gym tank top because I did a 50 spray challenge. That is my fault, yes, but I washed it multiple times. This stuff does not come out. I mean, yeah, it was 50. It was 100 sprays, actually. That was really dumb. On skin, you're looking at least 12 hours. This is one of those fragrances where you spray it in the morning, you shower, you smell your wrist, and you can still get whiffs of it. It's crazy. I also feel like it gets a lot of compliments. Fruity, fresh, strong fragrances. That is just a recipe for compliments. However, I am surprised it got so hyped because in my opinion, this actually leans more feminine than masculine. If unisex is here, I would say it's kind of over here. Feminine's here, it's kind of pushing this side, which for some guys won't be a problem. For me, there are definitely times where I do not mind wearing this at all. Totally depends what mood I am in. But for a lot of guys out there, I know a lot of guys like traditional, more masculine fragrances. That is one reason why I'm just so surprised that this got that much hype. One other thing to note about this fragrance is that it is extremely synthetic. There is not an ounce of natural smellingness in this bottle, if that makes sense. If you want a natural summertime citrus fragrance, stay away from this one. This is one that you must try before you buy. Otherwise, you'll probably make a huge mistake. It's not for me, it's good, it's just not my type of scent. I'm gonna give it a 7.8 out of 10. Next up, we have got Rayhaan Pacific. This is getting all the talk right now in the men's fragrance community. Why? Because the price of it is so cheap. I've seen people get this for $15 off the TikTok shop. In Australia, we don't have that luxury. However, I was fortunate enough to get this while I was over in the US for around 25 bucks. Is it worth it for 25 bucks? I would say yes. However, again, it is extremely synthetic, sweet, and fruity. So it's not gonna be for everyone. I happen to like these types of fragrances, so I do quite enjoy this scent. To me, it's like a downgrade of Rasasi Hawas. It smells less natural, it's a little bit less strong, it just doesn't smell quite as high quality, but Rasasi Hawas now is double the price of this. Do I think this is a good budget option? Yes, and I can totally see why it's hyped on TikTok right now. If you're a teenager looking to get started on your cologne journey and you've heard, maybe Nautica Voyage isn't the best option, it's not. Rayhaan Pacific could be a great alternative. Montal Arabians Tonka, first hyped up by a content creator from the UK called Oda Ragnar. Huge shout out to him, what a legend. Since then, since he hyped it up, a bunch of other creators have hopped on the wave, myself included. However, I do still have mixed feelings about this fragrance. I like that the oud isn't very strong because I'm not a fan of those super oud heavy fragrances. It's there in the opening, but then it dies down really fast and you just get that vanilla and rose combo. However, it is more masculine than I'm describing it. Vanilla and rose, maybe it's the oud that comes in that makes it a little bit more masculine. It doesn't smell similar to Oud Satin Mood, but it also has similarities. It's just a more masculine version. The performance is nuclear. It's a party boy clubbing scent in my opinion. When I go off to Europe in the next month, this is the kind of clubbing going out fragrance I'm gonna bring with me. It's awesome, I love it. It's one of those fragrances for me that I didn't expect to fall in love with, but here I am, I wear it all the time. It's gotten me multiple compliments on multiple occasions. Again, it's not gonna be for everyone. Montal though, for the price, you're getting great performance as long as you like the smell, man. The performance is never gonna let you down with Montal fragrances though. I totally see why this got all the hype on TikTok. I'm all for it. I love it. I'm here for it. The final fragrance, I've got to talk about it. It's Nautica Voyage. Look, I know I kind of trash talk it all the time, and the reasoning for that is because it smells super synthetic, super cheap, and it has a weird salty cucumber vibe. It is just not my type of scent at all. However, I can see why. If you can get it for $20, there's not that many better options out there. There are a few, like Afternoon 9 PM, Rayhaan Pacific. There's not that many though, for 20 bucks still. Performance is pretty bad, but it's not terrible. You know what? I'm starting to warm up to Nautica Voyage a bit. I am thankful, however, that the TikTok hype for this thing has gone down. I don't think it deserves to be hyped, especially with more kind of Arabian dupes entering the market at around that $20 to $40 price range. I think it makes Nautica Voyage redundant. Jeremy, I know you love it. I used to love it too. Sometimes you just gotta move on. That is gonna wrap it up for fragrances that TikTok made me buy. I bought these pretty much solely due to TikTok hype. Most of them were blind buys, some successful, some not. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know down below what fragrances you bought because of TikTok, and let me know if it was a good or regretful decision. Have a good rest of your day. Remember to like, subscribe, tick the bell for notifications. Catch you later.